Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is a special edition we have for the All Stakes Pick 4 on Haskell Day. Two guests to come and join me, Peter Thomas Fornatel, far from the Brooklyn bunker out here on the West Coast. How do you know it's not my place? There is a surfboard behind you. That's a pretty darn good tip-off. Trade the vinyl for the surfboard. We bring in first man who's been on these airwaves many times, does a great job, one of the most respected contest directors in America, and an excellent horse player in his spare time when he's not busy working in a little busman's holiday situation for Brian Skirka from Monmouth Park. Brian, how are things?
Pete and JK, I'm great. Always good to be on, especially Haskell week.
And then the other man, the usual co-host of this program. It's been good to have him be back on with him. He was carrying the torch while I was running around the country. You know him from the work he does for America's Day at the Races, for Fox, and right here at the In the Money Media Network, including on his own eponymous Plus One podcast. Jonathon Kinchen. JK, what's up?
I am loving my time here at Saratoga. It's an honor to be on those shows every day. But I do have to admit, it does get in the way of my trips down to the Jersey Shore. So I'll be watching for sure on my phone. Am I on air? I'm on air, so I'll be watching on my phone to check out what's going on down at Monmouth for the Haskell.
Some great racing. This is a really cool card. We have some other content going through some of the other races, but I'm most excited really to talk about this all stakes pick 4. And it begins in race number 9, where we've got $100,000 in the pot for the Wolf Hill Stakes, going 5.5 furlongs on this Monmouth turf course. Brian, we're going to bring you in first to give your opinions on this one. Where are you leaning?
So I am leaning towards a closer. In these races, this race to me looks absolutely gung-ho loaded with speed, all of them on the outside. Nothing better, that's right. 4 Harp, Just Jeremy, they're the 4 outside drawn horses. They all look like absolute gangbusters, need the lead types. So in these kind of races, in this kind of situation where we're kicking off a pick 4, I kind of just throw out those speeds and use all the closers. I know it's a turf sprint, and I'm sure JK is going to talk about wanting some speed, but when there's this much speed, for me, I mean, there's 4 absolute gung-ho need the leads. I'm using all the closers. Eamon, the 1, is going to be my top pick. He flew from last at Gulfstream, going 5 furlongs last time. Not the easiest thing to do, winning from dead last, going 5 furlongs at Gulfstream. Alagon, the 3, is a closer. Belgrano is a horse that I absolutely have to use. Loves Monmouth, loves 5.5, is a lot better at 5.5 furlongs than 5 furlongs, which he's been running last time, and will get a ton of speed in this race, and Witty as well. So 1, 3, 4, 5 for me, all the closers.
I mean, I get it. And JK, I really do want your opinion on this, because you talk so often about how it doesn't matter how much speed it looks like in the turf sprint. You still want that speed of the speed on your side. Is this possibly an exception, or are you going to try to find one to wire him, even with so much apparent speed signed up?
Yeah, I mean, not that I don't. It's always a weird thing to say that you feel like you're good at anything. So forgive me for saying. I do think that, like, compared to most horse players, I don't cringe at turf sprints like they do. I feel a little bit more comfortable. And I think the reason that I've had some success in them, or they don't bother my brain as much as I think they do other horse players, is I just pick the best horses. And I don't care what the pace scenario is. I mean, obviously, if a horse is going to get loose in there, that's great. It doesn't happen very often in turf sprints. I just pick the best horses. And to me, it's not even close who the 2 best horses are. It's the 7 Nothing Better and the 9 4 Heart. So those are the 2, just regardless of their style. Because if you in California see it, if Brian down in the Jersey Shore sees it, and I see it up here in Saratoga that there's a lot of pace in this race, then the jocks in the room see it too. And when that happens, they don't always end up hooking up. The trainers see it. One of them, hey, this horse will rate. He rates in the morning, so let's see if we can just kind of let him fall out of there and see what happens. And next thing you know, Nothing Better or 4 Harp is loose on the front end. They're the best horses, and they go on and gallop. So I'm going to use those 2 as the best horses in the race, as A horses, and then I'll use the other 2 horses that Brian mentioned, the 1 Eamon and the 4 Belgrano as the 2 closers that I think could pick up the pieces if, for whatever reason, it does materialize into a pace meltdown. But I'm comfortable trusting the 2 best horses.
A little bit of oppo there, but some opposition on the A line, but some commonality with JK's B's. in terms of if that pace does boil over. JK trying to have his cake and eat it too, which I think is, maybe not the worst approach in this spot. And I have a feeling we're going to get some stronger opinions from him as the sequence goes on. Let's talk about race number 10. It's the grade 3 Molly Pitcher. We're going 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt, and we've got a field of 8. JK, we'll keep it with you.
Yeah, look, I'm going to single the 4 search results. It feels as if she should be the 2-time grade 1 winning Ogden Phipps horse. And every time she just gets nailed at the wire. I think that this is a situation where she's the best horse in this race. I think she has a tactical pace scenario that she can get herself involved in. And I just think she's the best. I will use the 5 La Davida as a backup, as a B horse. But my all-stakes pick 4 on Haskell Day will go through the 4 search results.
Brian, curious to get your thoughts on this one. Is this a place that you're looking to narrow down as well?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I feel like JK and I have similar feelings for search results. I've heard him talk about her enough over the years, and I completely agree. She has run some of the most unbelievable races and lost that you'll ever see. Like last year against Latruska was just, one of the best races of the year. She just happened to lose because the race dynamics didn't suit her, so close behind Malathat and Clairiere. She is by far the class of this race. She is, on, 80% push to search results. The horse I'm interested in is Loved, maybe as just a potential backup. And just because we don't know, the sky could be the limit for her. She's been facing lesser company, but absolutely bullying them and just shrugging them away and dominating. She's won her last 3 races by nearly 30 lengths. She should be on the lead here. And I think it's going to be a very interesting dynamic. If Love makes the lead and Joelle Rosario can get search results kind of to her outside and just sit right off of her flank, that's kind of the race that Love has been running lately in Kentucky, and she's just been shrugging off those horses to her outside and going on and winning by as much as she wants. I don't think she's going to be able to shrug off search results. She's never seen a horse like search results to her outside in her life. So it's a proving day for Love. Is she just, beating up on lesser horses, or is she going to be able to be, turn into a graded stakes kind of horse, and what kind of battle is she going to give search results? But I would say 80 to 90% search results for me, and 10 to 20% Love, just in case, she's some blooming superstar.
That's an interesting idea. I mean, the paper on Love is certainly very, very appealing, and those aren't slow races. Still has to step it up, but it's going to be interesting to see what the tactics are in this spot. We'll move to the 11th, but I'm going to take a quick break here and just
before you hit that break, PTF, real quick about Loved, I just want to say this because it's also, I know a lot of our listeners are going to be watching Haskell Day, but they'll also be watching or at least playing in Coaching Club American Oaks Day. And I think something to keep in mind is that Ellis Park, you've heard every horseman say it, you've heard every rider say it, has been a very speed favoring racetrack. So just be careful with horses who found themselves on the front end. Hoosier Philly, another horse I'm sure we'll talk about, Pete, a little bit later when we go over that pick 6, or a little bit earlier if we did it before. But just keep an eye. That's one thing that I wanted to say about Love. Now, she could be a monster, right? She is a half to max field, so she's got a right to be a serious racehorse. She's lightly raced. She can take another step forward. I just want people to look at that race through the lens of she probably was on the right racetrack that day for her style.
Yeah, it's a fair point, and we'll see what happens. Completely unexposed. Water gets deep, but it's going to be it's an excellent showdown in the Molly Pitcher. And the break is just for me to talk about the Haskell contest, because if you're listening to this right away or watching it right away, actually, and if you're an ExpressBet player, right up to the moment of the contest, you can get involved. So, Brian, why don't you give us the lowdown on what you've got cooking for Haskell Day?
Absolutely. So Saturday is the Haskell Handicapping Challenge. It's a $1,000 live money buy-in contest, giving away seats to the BCBC, NHC, and of course cash. So last year, if memory serves, we had 229 entries. We ended up giving away 7 BCBC seats, 2 NHC seats, and like $35,000-$40,000 in cash. So we're hoping to up that a little bit this year. Entries so far, knock on wood, have been going very, very well. It's Monmouth Park races only, so all 14 races on the card are part of the contest. It's a $1,000 buy-in. Like I said, half of that, $500 goes to your bankroll, $500 goes to the prize pool, and then for your mandatory bets you have to bet at least 5 races at $100 a piece. Win, place, show, exacta, and double wagering only. and it is an online only contest, so there's no on-site element to it. It's Haskell Day, and logistically we just don't have the bandwidth to support an on-site contest. So TVG and ExpressBet are the ways that you can play. If you are in Canada, you can play through HPI, but for the majority of people, it'd be TVG and ExpressBet. If you're playing TVG, you have to sign up with me by today, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And if you're playing ExpressBet, you could sign up right through the ExpressBet app up until noon, post time for first race tomorrow on Saturday.
So I'm asking this for a friend, Brian. If you happen to not be registered for the NHC Tour, is there a substitute prize you get, or are you just out of luck?
Unfortunately, you were out of luck in that situation.
That's all right. Just to have this curiosity to ask.
Provided that you finish in a position where there's, so cash is to the top 5, and then typically the BCBC seats go first. So like in last year's example, finishes 1 through 7 got a BCBC seat. So in a scenario where that plays out again and someone finishes 8th, so the only there's no cash that left there, and the only spot left is an NHC seat. A non-NHC Tour member would get nothing, unfortunately.
Would move down to the next rung on the ladder. Let's talk about these grade 1s, gentlemen, starting off with the United Nations. Race 11, 5:06 Eastern is the scheduled post time, and a very interesting field of 10 going postward. Brian, we'll send it back to you for who you think is going to get the money.
Yeah, spectacular race. Both of these next 2 races for me are spectacular races. Some years on Haskell Day, we get the kind of superstar, the American Pharaoh, the Rachel Alexandra, the Chad Brown horse in the UN that's, 3 to 5, and you're kind of looking for who's going to finish second behind them. Both the UN and Haskell are not that race, at least in my opinion, this year. Both very, very good handicapping races. I think I'm going to land on the 3 Catnip in the UN. I was just very impressed by his race last time in the Monmouth Stakes. He is stretching out again to the mile and 3/8, but he's undefeated this year, continues to improve the Buyers. Last race was sitting a really great trip, second, kind of just off Tribhuvan, just off the speed. And then on the backside, all hell broke loose. And the 2 horses that were last made this big blitz to be second and third. And Catnip, probably didn't realize that there was going to be some crazy backstretch blitz and just ended up like last. So went from sitting a great trip second to shuffling back to last, and still won very easily, came rolling down the center of the track to get the job done. So he's an improving horse. He's 2 for 2 at Monmouth. And this category of horse, this grade 1 turf, I just think we've seen enough over the years that unless it's, a Chad Brown, that's, these are good horses. It's the horses, they just keep beating each other. Mike Maker will win one race and then someone else will win one race. So unless it's some superstar coming over from Europe, or if one of Chad's very, very best, I have no problem, betting a horse making his grade 1 debut in these marathon turf races, because I just don't think there's any superstars at the moment. So Catnip for me. Planetario, very, very interesting, coming in from California for Richard Mandela. And the one long shot I want to give a shout out to that I'm using on every ticket is Yamato, the 7. I just have a mental thing with him. I've followed him for a very long time when he's been running in like starter allowance races for Marat Samkal. He's been claimed now by Mike Maker. So the day that he was claimed, I just proclaimed the sources. He'll win a grade 1. It can, that mile and a half race at Kentucky Downs, has his name all over it. I find it very interesting that Saez gets aboard. You can't really see it in his PPs, but I would say like 15 races back on Yamato, Saez used to ride him all the time when he was trained by Marat Samkal. So there's definitely some familiarity there, and he's the one long shot that I'm not going to let beat me, but I think Catnip's going to be the top pick.
I get it. So yeah, I'm going to write that down as 3 and 7 on the A line for you, with some interest in Planetario, maybe a little bit more as a backup. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that works.
JK, where are you here? I know you love a Mike Maker trainee. You've got a couple of those to pick from, and we've got this tier at the top of the market, I'd say, with Catnip and the Old Warrior, Red Knight, and also Planetario for Mandela cutting back. Where will the JK dollars be going?
Yeah, I mean, Red Knight will be my top choice in here, but I'll use a Yamato as well, 7-9, or be my A horses. That's what Mike Maker does, and to Brian's point, there's no superstar in here, right? Like it's not like Sugar, Clement, or Todd or Chad. There's like shipped one down that's been winning grade 1s all year and shows up here in this race, right? There's no superstar. So when that becomes the case, I just default to you and I could probably win a grade 1 in a horse suit if Mike Maker trained us to go long on the turf. And Red Knight in all seriousness, feels like the best horse in here, the most consistent. He was only a couple links behind who I think most would argue would be, 1 to 9 in this spot and up to the mark. So, I trust Red Knight to show up and run his race. Yamato looks like a progressive type. He's only been with Maker for a couple of starts. And I think he had some excuses last time. If you watch the replay there, that was a tough trip he had at Churchill Downs. He broke slow. He was last at a slow pace. Then he had traffic. So although that speed figure dipped down a little bit, I think you could probably add a couple of mental points to that speed figure. And he kind of feels like he's a little bit more in the mix. I'll use the 3 Catnip. And I believe it's the 8. I don't have numbers. Foreign Relations as a B horse in here. I'll let the other ones beat me. I was noticed there's a lot of geldings in here, which I thought was interesting. I was going to try to make a gelding joke, but there's a couple of horses, so I couldn't.
Bit of a frat house vibe in the gate with all those geldings. Yes, and of course, host fail there. There are 3 Mike Baker trainees, so there are lots of chances for him to improve his already impressive mark in Grade 1 turf races. Let's go to the race that gives the day its name. This is a fantastic running of the Haskell. We have lots of star power, some interesting up-and-comers. JK, who's your idea of the winner?
I am going to single Arabian Night. I think one thing that you got to realize in these summer races is that there's an opportunity for you to really allow your old opinions to come to fruition. I loved Arabian Night going into the Derby after a lot of his races. I thought he was outstanding, especially the Southwest. And I thought, okay, here's my Derby horse. And then he got hurt and he didn't make it to the Derby. Now he's back. He's grown up a little bit, and Baffert will have him ready to run. Baffert did not put him on the plane to come to Monmouth to not show up. This horse will be ready to run. And if you think he's going to run his best race, you have to then ask yourself, is his best good enough to beat this group? And I think the answer is an emphatic yes. I'll be ice cold singled. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I won't be ice cold singled. I will single Arabian Night because the other horse that I thought could be a Derby horse, could be a superstar as a 3-year-old was Extra Anejo. So he'll be involved as a horse that I think that could potentially improve a little bit. So Arabian Night for me, it's going to kind of be the forgotten 3-year-olds is going to be my theme for this Haskell. Arabian Night will be my A, and Extra Anejo will be my B.
Arabian Night's certainly interesting. And if you go back and you look at that Southwest Stakes from January 28th, and you look at the figures that I think 8 of the 9 horses coming out of it significantly improved their figures. That makes me think the published figure might be low there. And already, even just what the published figure is, you figure in that improvement for age in the 175 days since we've seen him. He's got something in hand speed figure wise against this group, especially with all the quotes about Mage, needing the race and really treating it more as a prep. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with Arabian Night. So Brian, you come in here and tell us, are we just on the hype train here, or do we think Arabian Night might be the goods?
No, I agree with the overall premise that I'm looking for a new face of the up-and-comers. Mage obviously is the focal point. He's the Kentucky Derby winner. He deserves all the respect in the world. But as you said, they're kind of on record that the Traverse is their main, they would love to win the Haskell, I'm sure. It's a Grade 1 $1 million Breeders' Cup win in your in race. Who wouldn't want to win the Haskell? But this is a stepping stone to the Traverse. So, he certainly can win the race, but are you going to throw all your eggs in the basket of a horse that, might not be 120% just oozing, ready to go for this race? And so he's obviously in a proven horse, and Tapit Trice is the other kind of proven one that comes out of the Triple Crown races. And I've soured on him, to be honest, which is probably going to put him right in the winner's circle. But he was my Derby pick. He was my Belmont pick. And I didn't love either of those races, to be honest. So I'm kind of off of him in this race. So if you want to play like the Brian jump off, I don't blame you at all. I'm going to go with Extra Anejo as my top pick in here. 1,000% respect, Arabian Night and Bob Baffert. If this was any other trainer bringing in a horse off a 7-month layoff into the Haskell, I would certainly have questions. This horse is going to be ready to run. He's proven that he's incredibly fast. He's going to be on the lead. and he has to be on any ticket. Bal Befford has won this race 9 times. He's going for 10. Even if your opinion is he's not my top pick, I just don't see how you could throw this horse completely out and say if he wins, I lose. I don't see that as possible. But Extra Anejo, I think is that what Jonathon was kind of saying. Last year was the holy crap horse at Keeneland along with Arabian Night. Like, this is a 3-year-old that we need to be paying attention to next year. Kind of, I guess, had a minor injury, got a late start early this year, but is now this is his Derby, basically. This is his stakes debut. This is his chance to prove that, okay, I'm just as good as these horses who've been running in stakes races all year. The one thing I do want to mention for people to keep an eye out for, because it might change, and I don't even know, because we have had a lot of rain, but the Monmouth Dirt Course this year has been playing, I would say, very outside favoring. I think people kind of have they remember the Monmouth of old, where it's just a highway and get to the rail and the lead, and you're going to sail all the way around. This year, speed has certainly been good. I'm not saying it's a closer friendly track, but off the rail has been the place to be. We have had rain last weekend, even during this weekend, and obviously it's Haskell week, so I'm sure the track has been very manicured. So take a look at the races today and early on Saturday. But we have seen a very distinct outside flow in races, so just kind of keep that in mind. But Extra Anejo over Go Rocket Ride, Salute the Stars, and Arabian Night for me.
All right, I like it. So you will have some Go Rocket Ride and some Salute the Stars on those tickets as well. But the main interest is the 7 and the 8. All right, one thing left to do, guys. It's time for the Monmouth Park Bet of the Week. Can be from one of the races we discussed. You can pull something from another race if you want it to be that. I didn't really prep you guys for this, but it's one of our new features. So we're going to get into it now. JK, if you could just pick one horse on the card, who would it be?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm hopeful, not too hopeful, right, because of Bafford's record in this race. But, I think Arabian Night, there's still going to be some doubt. There's going to be a lot of really sharp, shrewd horse players that cannot digest taking this horse off of this long layoff in a grade 1 against the likes of horses like Extra Anejo, Tappet Trice, Mage, the Derby winner, for crying out loud. Doesn't he have to be favored? He's the Derby winner. So I do think that, and I say it with confidence, I think that you'll actually get a pretty darn good price on Arabian Night. So that'll be my best bet for sure.
I get it completely. Brian, how about you?
I'm going to go back to the race we started with, race 9, the Wolf Hill, that turf sprint race. I'm going to say Eamon, or Eamon, however you want to pronounce it, is my best bet of the day. As I said earlier, I just see that race absolutely loaded with speed. I want a closer, and hopefully Eamon with Joel Rosario, one of, if not the best, turf sprint riders, just coming from dead last to mow you down. He's going to be my pick of the day. He's 10-1 on the line, so hopefully you get a decent price.
I love it. We got some great ideas there, guys. Really looking forward to getting to Del Mar early and playing this card. It's going to be a lot of fun. Brian, we thank you again. JK, we thank you again. JK will be doing double duty on the other show. We'll talking about some Saratoga races. And if you want more Monmouth Park content, we have a whole other show with trainer interviews and thoughts and analysis from Naomi Tucker and Nick Tamaro on that one. We're blowing it out here. Also, one last reminder, sign up for that Haskell contest. Generally speaking, be very aware of what Brian has going on contest-wise, some of the most popular events out there. You can get many more details on the Monmouth Park website. For Brian and JK and the rest of our friends at Monmouth, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. May you win all your photos.